Hey everybody, welcome back to a regularly scheduled episode of Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly. As you can see, we're still in a closet here in Nebraska, and we'll be in Nebraska for a while. I don't know how long we'll be in this closet, but as I think I mentioned last week, the lighting in here is pretty good, and it's fairly comfortable. We do have a lot of the Las Vegas memorabilia around, but I have yet to fully distribute it. We have our little basket that has all kinds of little knickknacks and stuff. So we're probably going to end up moving into one of the spare bedroom, which is kind of right behind me, at some point once we get a little more furniture in here and get set with some of that. But did want to go ahead and get a video out today. And today what we're going to do is kind of a reprise of sorts. Not that we haven't repeated ourselves on numerous occasions on this channel. We're going to talk about something I think we talked about 3 years ago on the channel when we did, actually I think we had 2 parts on this, but we're going to try to basically condense it down into just one show, and that would be this week's show, when we talked about comps, and that particular video got more views than any of these sort of talking head videos that we've ever done. We've done some room tours and walk-arounds and Vegas vlog things that have done better than that. But yeah, the comps one really got a lot of attention. And given the fact that it's been a few years, I thought it might be a good idea to go ahead and revisit that and talk to some of you all who, and that includes people that have visited Vegas on numerous occasions, about a little bit about how the comp process works. And when we say comp, it is short for the word complimentary. And it's what a lot of people would call free stuff, but I always try to differentiate that because comps really aren't all that free. You get them because the casino in question thinks that you're going to leave money behind, and as long as they can track the amount of money you leave behind, they're willing to go ahead and give you some of that money back in the form of various things, such as free rooms, free food, free play on your machines or at the tables. And there are a number of different kinds of comps, and we'll go into that here in a little bit of detail. But basically what you need to understand is that it's not free. I mean, it can be if you have a particularly good session or you have a particularly good trip. You may discover that you've made money gambling and at the same time that you've earned a lot of comps. Because it's not really based on whether you win or lose. It's based upon the amount of money you're willing to put at risk, and in addition to the amount of money you're willing to spend. And we'll talk about that briefly when we get to the end of this episode. Okay, so let's start out with the most basic information about comps and the most traditional sort of comps. And the amount of comps that you're going to get from any property is going to be a function of a number of different components in terms of your play in that casino. It all kind of gets folded into a number, which is called your ADT, your average daily theoretical. And when we say theoretical, we mean your average daily theoretical loss. The casino knows that over the course of time, if you continue to play certain machines, if you continue to make a certain size bet, in the long run, you're going to lose X amount. There are basically no games in the casino which have a player advantage. And if there are games that have somewhat of a player advantage or have very minimal house advantage, they're also typically not going to earn you a lot of comps. So let's talk about some of the components that go into your average daily theoretical. First and foremost would be the size of your bet. And as most of you know, you can go into a casino, in most casinos anywhere, and bet as little as maybe 20 cents, 30 cents. I mean, I know there are still machines out there, because I've seen them on my most recent trip to Vegas, that will literally take 1 penny. So you could, if you find the right casino, you could literally bet as little as a penny, and you could bet tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars per hand of blackjack or baccarat or any number of table games. And there are even slot machines that take, like $1,000 tokens and probably larger numbers than that. So that's going to be the first component, but it's not the only component, because the second thing that the casino is going to look at is the casino's take of that particular bet. So if you're betting $10,000 a hand at blackjack, blackjack is a game that has a pretty small house edge, particularly if you get fairly advantageous rules. And if you know what you're doing, you might only be giving back on average about 2%, 1 to 2% of what you're wagering. So while you may be betting $10,000 a hand, you are on any particular hand expected to lose, say, no more than $200. On the other hand, if you were playing, say, a slot machine and betting $1,000 a spin, in all likelihood, on that $1,000 spin, you'd probably be giving back on every single one of those spins somewhere between $50 to $100, depending upon the type of slot machine you were playing. So very different size bets can have the same sort of theoretical loss. If you play games like roulette, that's going to have a much higher house advantage. So in theory, the same amount of action, the same amount of bets that you make at a roulette table should actually earn you more comps than they would on a blackjack table. Of course, probably the worst odds of all, at least in games people actually play, would be on the slot machines. And that's where the comps really come in hot and heavy for the average person, because the average person playing blackjack, even if they're playing $25 or $100 a hand, their average daily theoretical is going to be pretty small. Whereas if you're betting $2, $3, $4 a spin on a slot machine, that adds up very quickly, because most slot machines are probably giving back only about 90%, 90 cents on the dollar. You might get lucky and get one in the 95 to 98% range. But that's typically going to be one where you're going to be wagering quite a bit on each particular spin. Now, of course, the third component is simply time, and that is how many of these wagers you're willing to make. And this is where a lot of people can get confused, because they may walk into a casino and they may have a pretty large bankroll. It could be, $5,000, $10,000. And they may be making a pretty large wager on each hand or each spin of a machine, but they have a particularly bad day and that bankroll goes by very quickly. On the other hand, you may walk into a casino with a pretty modest bankroll, a few $100, and play the same machine, the same size bet, but because you just happen to have a pretty good day, you were lucky that day, you might be able to play the entire day. Again, the casino, generally speaking, doesn't care how much you win or how much you lose. They care how much money you're willing to put at risk. And so, it can seem sometimes unfair that you can lose a lot of money and they don't give you a lot of comps. But in the long run, people are going to have greater success and greater failures when they have short-term play than they will if they sit and play all day long, in which case it's going to be much more likely to conform to the average payback percentages. So those are the three components. 1, the size of your bet. 2, the length of time you're willing to play. And 3, the house advantage. And, they have computers. They can crunch those numbers. They can only crunch those numbers, however, if they can track your play. So it's absolutely critical, and it's pretty much the only way you're going to earn any comps, is if you use your Players Club card, put it in the machine. When you play a machine, it should make sure it registers. Sometimes you put that in and you get a little red light and it says it didn't take it. Or if you're playing at a table game at a sufficient level, you'll want to give your card to the pit boss, so again that they can track the level of your play. Because they're only going to give you comps if they can see what it is you're wagering over the course of time. So what is it that you can really earn? What's a realistic return on your gambling investment? This is where casinos can differ, and they differ from one casino to another, and they may differ over time. In general, I would have to say, and certainly there are people smarter than I who probably will watch this video, I would say that what the casinos are willing to return to you in terms of comps has probably declined somewhat in recent years. Now, I will say at the time of the pandemic and immediately thereafter, there were a lot of great offers going out to people in terms of rooms and free play and things like that to try to bring customers back in. But it has definitely dropped way off in the last couple of years as the business has returned to Las Vegas. So anything I say here about the basic return that you're likely to get on your play is going to be very iffy, and it can change a lot. Let's say your average daily theoretical is $1,000. And just to remind you, that means that's what the casino believes you're going to lose based upon your level of play. Now, if you travel to a casino and you spend 3 or 4 days there, they're going to be able to look at that over the course of time. So you can't just go in one day and play your $1,000 theoretical and then not play the other 3 days. The people are going to know you're there, and they're going to know that you didn't put any money at risk on those days. So it's going to be, again, the average daily theoretical. So it's going to change based upon how you play on particular days. So let's keep that in mind as well. Typically, a casino will give you somewhere between 25 and 50% back of your average daily theoretical. So if you're expected to lose $1,000, you should expect about $250 to $500 in comps. And quite frankly, it's much more likely to be on the $250 end these days. In fact, I would go so far to say is that you're not going to get 50% back in comps. You might get into the 35 to 40% range. I think that's much more realistic these days than it would have been a few years ago. And of course, things can change. If Vegas is desperate to bring people in, or any casino is desperate to bring people in, they're more likely to give you more back in order to get you back into that casino. And so if you have that $250, let's say, in comps, that may be in the form of a complimentary room. It may be in the form of $50 worth of food credit, $50 worth of free play, any number of components to that. And that's what we want to talk about briefly next. Now, one thing that may be confusing to people is that as you play at a machine, you'll typically discover that you're earning points or you're earning comp dollars. Just keep in mind that that's only a part of what it is that you should expect to earn for your play. So, yeah, you'll earn points that you can directly redeem for a free meal or that you can use to pay off your hotel bill. But in my judgment, in my experience, that's been a reasonably small percentage of the comps you can expect in the long run. You're not going to necessarily get those comps right away, but they may be in the form of future offers. And that can be a big deal if you regularly return to a casino, whether it's a local casino or Las Vegas. If you play consistently over the time that you're at a casino, you're liable to either get an email or snail mail offer for some sort of a free room or discounted room and some free play and some free food, that sort of thing. But again, that'll come after the fact, after you've been there. If you think your level of play has been high enough that it should be able to reduce your room charges or pay for a meal, your best bet is to check with the Players Club booth, and an even better thing to do is ask to speak to whoever the host is on call at that particular point. They can take a look at your play, and if it's sufficient, they may be able to adjust your hotel bill, etc. Now, that's only going to work if you book directly through the hotel. They're not going to be able to help you if you got your room through Orbitz or something like that. So just keep in mind that those points that you see accumulating are only a part, and that's not all you should expect to get back for your play. Now, one thing that has changed in recent years is most Players Clubs now also track your spend on properties. So even if you're not gambling, you may be able to earn comps, whether you use your card when you pay for your bill at the nightclub or an expensive restaurant, or really anywhere that you spend money. In a casino, it's a good idea to show your Players Club card. Normally that hotel spend will also count towards essentially your average daily theoretical. It may be figured a little bit differently, and you're probably still not going to earn a ton of comps just for spending money in the hotel, but it never hurts to let them know and let them track what it is that you're spending. So hopefully today's show has helped answer a few questions that you might have about comps. If you have any additional questions or you'd like me to talk further on this matter, please let me know. Leave a comment below. If there's something you disagree with or there's something you think I should have included, I'd certainly appreciate your feedback on that as well. We will be back next Saturday with another episode of Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly. Until then, I hope that you have a great, lucky, and healthy week. And we'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.